The summer heat clung to Victoria's skin like a second layer as she trudged down Maple Street, her orange shorts riding up with each step. The Hooters uniform wasn't designed for walking 3 miles home, but here she was, doing exactly that because she'd missed the last bus by 12 minutes. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching. 12 goddamn minutes that meant the difference between a 20-minute ride and an hour-long death march in 90-degree weather. Her tank top stuck to her back, and she could feel sweat gathering at her hairline, making her blonde ponytail feel heavier than it should. At 24, Victoria had perfected the art of looking put together even when everything was falling apart. But tonight, she was losing that battle. Her feet ached in the required white sneakers, and she could already picture her mother's disapproving look when she walked through the front door past midnight again. The sound of a car slowing beside her made her stomach clench. She'd walked this route enough times to know the drill. Keep your head down, don't make eye contact, pretend you can't hear whatever crude comment is coming. "Excuse me." The voice was softer than expected. Female. Victoria glanced over to find a sleek black sedan keeping pace with her walking speed. Its window rolled down just enough to reveal dark hair and concerned eyes. "You okay? It's pretty late to be walking alone." Victoria stopped, really looking at the woman for the first time. Even in the dim streetlight, she could see sharp cheekbones and full lips that belonged in a magazine. The kind of effortless beauty that came with money and good genetics. Her car was pristine, not a single dent or scratch, and Victoria caught a glimpse of leather seats that probably cost more than she made in 2 months. "I'm fine," Victoria said automatically, then immediately regretted it. This woman looked safe, more than safe. She looked like salvation wrapped in designer clothes. "Where are you headed? I can give you a ride." Victoria's mind raced. This was either incredibly stupid or incredibly lucky. The woman's voice held no trace of threat, just genuine concern. And God, Victoria was so tired of walking, so tired of everything. "You sure? I don't want to put you out." "Not at all. I'm Willow, by the way." "Victoria." She moved toward the car, hyper-aware of how she must look. Sweaty, disheveled, wearing an outfit designed to maximize tips rather than comfort. But Willow's expression didn't change, didn't judge. The interior of the car was exactly what Victoria expected. Immaculate, expensive, smelling faintly of something floral and sophisticated. The air conditioning hit her like a blessing, and she had to resist the urge to moan with relief. "So, tough night at work?" Willow's voice held a note of amusement as she pulled back into traffic. Victoria felt heat creep up her neck that had nothing to do with the weather. "Something like that. Double shift, missed my bus." She studied Willow's profile as they drove. Strong jaw, elegant neck, hands that looked like they'd never done manual labor. "What about you? Out kind of late yourself." "Work dinner that ran long, occupational hazard." Willow glanced over, and Victoria caught a flash of green eyes that seemed to see everything. "I'm a financial advisor. Lots of late nights with clients who think their portfolios are more important than sleep." "Money." "Of course." Victoria filed that information away, her mind already calculating possibilities. This woman was exactly what she'd been waiting for. Successful, apparently single, and clearly interested enough to pick up a stranger. The flirtation in Willow's voice was subtle but unmistakable. "Must be nice, having that kind of flexibility," Victoria said, letting her voice drop slightly. "Being your own boss." "It has its perks." Willow's fingers drummed against the steering wheel. "Though it can get lonely. All work. Not much time for other things." The opening was perfect. Victoria turned in her seat, studying Willow more openly. "What kind of other things?" Their eyes met at a red light, and Victoria felt something electric pass between them. Willow's gaze dropped briefly to Victoria's lips, before snapping back to the road. "Turn left here," Victoria said quietly, though they were still 6 blocks from her parents' house. She wasn't ready for this to end. Not when opportunity was sitting right next to her, looking like everything she'd ever wanted. Willow turned, parking under a streetlight that cast them both in amber shadows. The engine ticked as it cooled, and Victoria could hear her own heartbeat in the sudden quiet. "Victoria," Willow said, and the way she said her name made Victoria's stomach flip. Like it mattered. Like she mattered. Victoria didn't let herself think. She leaned across the console, one hand finding Willow's cheek, and kissed her. Willow went completely still for a heartbeat, then kissed her back with a hunger that made Victoria's toes curl in her sneakers. Her lips were soft but demanding, and she tasted like wine and something darker. Victoria had kissed plenty of people, but never anyone who made her feel like she was drowning and flying at the same time. They separated slowly, both breathing hard. Willow's eyes were wide, pupils blown dark in the dim light. "I wasn't expecting that," Willow whispered. "Good unexpected or bad unexpected?" Victoria's hand was still on Willow's face, thumb brushing across her cheekbone. "Definitely good." Willow's smile was soft, almost shy. "Very good." Victoria felt triumph surge through her chest, sharp and intoxicating. This was going to work. This beautiful, successful woman was going to be her ticket to freedom, and all Victoria had to do was make her fall in love. It should have felt more calculated. Instead, kissing Willow again felt like coming home. 3 weeks later, Victoria found herself in Willow's apartment for the first time, and it was everything she'd imagined. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, a kitchen that was bigger than Victoria's entire bedroom at her parents' house. "This is incredible," Victoria breathed, running her fingers along the marble countertop. "You have amazing taste." Willow appeared behind her with 2 glasses of wine, setting them down carefully. "I can't take all the credit. I had help from a decorator." "Of course she did." Victoria accepted the wine, hyper-aware of how Willow's fingers lingered against hers during the handoff. Every touch between them had been like this, charged, deliberate, building towards something Victoria both craved and feared. "So this is how the other half lives," Victoria said, settling onto the couch that probably cost more than she made in 6 months. "Is that what you think of me? That I'm some spoiled rich girl?" There was no judgment in Willow's voice, just curiosity. Victoria studied her over the rim of her wine glass. Willow had changed out of her work clothes into jeans and a soft sweater that made her look younger, more approachable. Her dark hair fell in waves past her shoulders, and she'd kicked off her shoes, revealing feet with perfectly painted toenails. "I think you're someone who's worked hard for what she has," Victoria said carefully. It wasn't entirely true. She suspected Willow had started with advantages Victoria could only dream of. But it was what Willow needed to hear. "I have worked hard," Willow said, settling beside Victoria on the couch. Close enough that Victoria could smell her perfume, something expensive and complex. "But I've also been lucky. Right place, right time, right opportunities." "Lucky how?" Willow was quiet for a moment, staring into her wine. "Good family, college fund, connections." She looked up, meeting Victoria's eyes. Things that not everyone gets. There was something in her expression that made Victoria's chest tighten. Understanding, maybe, or pity. Victoria wasn't sure which was worse. "What about you?" Willow asked. "What do you want, besides getting out of your parents' house?" Victoria had told her about that during their second date, how she was saving every penny to move out, but could barely keep up with her bills. She'd been careful to sound determined rather than desperate, independent rather than needy. "I want to matter," Victoria said, surprising herself with the honesty. "I want to do something that makes a difference instead of just surviving." Willow set down her wine glass and moved closer until their thighs were touching. You already matter. Do I? The question slipped out before Victoria could stop it. Raw and vulnerable in a way she hadn't intended. Willow kissed her, slow and thorough, like she had all the time in the world to explore Victoria's mouth. Victoria's wine glass ended up on the coffee table somehow, and then Willow's hands were in her hair, tugging gently until Victoria's head fell back. You matter to me, Willow whispered against her throat, and Victoria felt something crack open in her chest. Something dangerous and terrifying and entirely unplanned. This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to actually fall for Willow. But as Willow's lips found the sensitive spot just below her ear, Victoria realized it was already too late. 2 months into whatever they were calling this relationship, Victoria knew she was completely screwed. Not in the way she'd planned, financially secure and finally independent, but emotionally, thoroughly, irrevocably. She was in love with Willow, and it was ruining everything. The plan had been simple. Make Willow fall for her, move in together, gain financial stability, and figure out the rest later. Instead, Victoria found herself lying awake at night thinking about Willow's laugh, counting the hours until she could see her again, feeling physically sick whenever she thought about the deception that had started all of this. They were having dinner at Willow's apartment, sharing takeout Chinese food and a bottle of wine. Willow was telling a story about a difficult client, gesturing with her chopsticks in a way that made Victoria want to kiss her senseless. You're not listening, Willow said, smiling. I am. Mrs. Henderson's portfolio, diversification, boring financial stuff. Victoria reached across the table to steal a piece of Willow's sesame chicken. I was just thinking about something else, too. Care to share? Victoria's stomach twisted. They'd been dancing around the future for weeks now, making plans that assumed they'd still be together in 6 months, a year. Willow had even mentioned having extra space in her closet, said it almost casually, but with an undertone that made Victoria's heart race. I need to tell you something, Victoria said, the words coming out in a rush before she could lose her nerve. Willow set down her chopsticks, her expression shifting to something more serious. Okay. That night we met, when you picked me up. Victoria's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against the table, trying to steady herself. I wasn't just grateful for the ride. What do you mean? The words felt like they were being dragged out of her throat. I saw your car, your clothes, the way you carried yourself. I knew you had money, and I kissed you because I thought you could help me get out of my situation. Willow went very still. Help you how? I thought if I could make you fall for me, maybe you'd let me move in. Maybe I could finally get away from my parents' house, start building a real life. Victoria's voice was barely above a whisper now. I used you. At first. The silence stretched between them like a chasm. Victoria could hear her own heartbeat, the distant sound of traffic outside, the tick of Willow's expensive watch. At first, Willow repeated finally. I love you. The words tumbled out desperate and raw. I know I have no right to say that after what I just told you, but I love you so much, it scares me. This stopped being about money or stability weeks ago. You make me want to be better, to deserve the way you look at me. I've never felt like this about anyone. Willow stood up abruptly, walking to the window with her back to Victoria. Her shoulders were rigid, her hands clenched at her sides. You planned this, she said quietly, from the very beginning. Yes. There was no point in lying now. But everything after that first kiss was real. Every conversation, every time everything. I swear to you, Willow, what I feel for you is real. Willow turned around, and Victoria saw something broken in her expression. How am I supposed to know what's real? How am I supposed to trust anything you've said to me? Because I'm telling you the truth now. I'm risking everything to tell you the truth. You're risking everything? Willow's voice was sharp now, cutting. What exactly are you risking, Victoria? Your meal ticket? The words hit like a slap. Victoria stood up, her own anger flaring. That's not fair. You know that's not what this is anymore. Do I? Because right now, I don't know what I know. Willow's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I need time to think. I can't do this right now. Victoria felt her world tilt sideways. What does that mean? It means I need space. It means I need you to leave. The ride back to her parents' house was a blur of traffic lights and tears Victoria refused to let fall. She'd known this was a possibility, had prepared herself for rejection, but actually hearing Willow ask her to leave felt like having her chest cracked open. She stood at the end of the driveway of the small house she'd been desperate to escape, staring at the peeling paint and dying lawn. Her phone buzzed with a text from her manager asking if she could pick up an extra shift tomorrow. Life, apparently, was going to keep moving forward, whether her heart was broken or not. Inside, her parents were watching TV in the living room, the volume turned up too loud. Her mother looked up as Victoria walked in. You're home early. Everything okay with that girl? Victoria had told them about Willow, carefully editing the details. They knew she was dating someone successful, someone with her own place, and Victoria had seen the hope in their eyes. Hope that their daughter might finally move out, might finally stop being their financial burden. We had a fight, Victoria said. Her father muted the TV. Serious fight? Maybe. Victoria sank into the worn armchair that had been in the same spot for 15 years. I might have screwed everything up. Her mother's face fell. Oh, honey. Victoria closed her eyes, leaning her head back against the familiar cushions. She'd been so focused on escaping this house, this life, that she'd forgotten what it felt like to be surrounded by people who loved her unconditionally. Her parents might not understand her choices, might not be able to offer her the life she wanted, but they were here. They were real. Unlike her relationship with Willow, which had been built on a lie from the very first moment. A week passed without contact. Victoria threw herself into work, picking up every extra shift available, serving wings and beer to customers who looked at her like she was part of the scenery. She smiled and flirted and collected tips, going through the motions of her old life while feeling like she was watching it from outside her body. She'd sent Willow one text 3 days after their fight, just "I'm sorry," but had gotten no response. On Friday night, Victoria was wiping down tables after the dinner rush when she looked up to find Willow standing near the hostess station. She looked different, tired maybe, or uncertain. Her usual polished composure was slightly off. Her jeans and sweater more casual than Victoria had ever seen her. Their eyes met across the restaurant, and Victoria felt her heart stutter. Willow raised a hand in a small wave, then gestured toward an empty booth in Victoria's section. Victoria's hands shook as she approached the table, order pad clutched like a lifeline. Can I get you something to drink? Just water. Willow's voice was quiet. And maybe 5 minutes to talk when you have time. Victoria nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She brought the water with trembling hands, hyper-aware of how she must look in her uniform, hair pulled back and probably smelling like chicken wings. I've been thinking, Willow said when Victoria slid into the booth across from her. About what you told me. About honesty. Victoria waited, afraid to breathe. I did something similar once, Willow continued, her fingers wrapped around the water glass. In college, there was this woman, older, established, a professor's wife who moved in certain social circles I wanted access to. Victoria's stomach clenched. I pursued her deliberately, made her think I was falling for her when really I just wanted the connections she could provide, the networking opportunities. Willow looked up, meeting Victoria's eyes. It worked. I got everything I wanted from her, and then I disappeared. I never told her the truth, never gave her the chance to decide if what we had after was real. I just took what I needed and left. Willow's voice was thick with something that sounded like regret. She tried to contact me for months. I ignored every call, every message. They sat in silence for a moment, the noise of the restaurant fading into background static. "Why are you telling me this?" Victoria asked. "Because you're braver than I was. Because you told me the truth, even though it cost you everything." Willow reached across the table, her fingers brushing Victoria's hand. "Because I've spent this week missing you so much I could barely function, and I realized that whatever your motivations were in the beginning, what we have now is real." Victoria felt tears prick at her eyes. "Is it? How can you be sure?" "Because you had no reason to tell me except guilt. You could have kept quiet, moved in with me eventually, gotten what you originally wanted. But you chose honesty over security." Willow's thumb traced across Victoria's knuckles. "That's not something someone does if they're still running a con." "I love you," Victoria whispered. "I know I have no right to ask you to believe that, but I do." "I love you too." Willow's smile was soft, tentative. "I think I have since that second week, when you fell asleep on my couch and snored like a chainsaw. Very unglamorous, completely adorable." Victoria laughed, a sound caught between relief and disbelief. "I don't snore." "You absolutely do." Willow squeezed her hand. "Move in with me." "What?" "Move in with me. Not because you need financial help, not because you want to escape your parents' house. Move in with me because we're good together, because I sleep better when you're there, because my coffee tastes better when you make it in the morning." Victoria stared at her, hardly daring to believe what she was hearing. "Are you sure? After everything?" "I'm sure." Willow brought Victoria's hand to her lips, pressing a soft kiss to her palm. "We both made mistakes. We both used people we cared about. But we're here now, being honest with each other. That has to count for something." Victoria looked around the restaurant, at the sticky floors and garish orange decorations, at the customers who barely acknowledged her existence, at the life she'd been so desperate to escape. Then she looked back at Willow, at the woman who'd seen her at her worst and was still choosing to love her. "Okay," she said simply. "Okay?" "Yes. I'll move in with you, not because of your apartment or your money or what you can give me." Victoria leaned forward, closing the distance between them across the small table. "Because I love you. Because you make me want to be the person you see when you look at me." Willow's smile was radiant. "Can you get out of here early? I have a key to make you, and there's this amazing Thai place that delivers to my building." Victoria glanced around the restaurant, at her manager counting tips behind the bar, at her coworkers cleaning up from the dinner rush. In a few hours, she'd be back in her childhood bedroom, staring at the ceiling and planning her next shift. Or she could leave with Willow, start building something real with someone who knew the worst thing about her and loved her anyway. It wasn't even a choice. "Give me 5 minutes to close out my tables," Victoria said, already standing. "Then let's go home." "Home," Willow repeated, like she was testing the word. "I like the sound of that." As Victoria hurried to finish her closing duties, she caught her reflection in the restaurant's grimy windows. She looked different somehow, lighter maybe, or just more real. Like she'd finally stopped pretending to be someone else and discovered that being herself was enough. It had taken a lie to bring them together, but the truth was going to set them both free.